Hi. Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Tom Bennett, an actor who played Sir James Martin in Whit Stillman's Love and Friendship, which, honestly, was my favorite performance in any movie I saw last year. He also appeared in Christopher Guest's Mascots and Ricky Gervais's David Brent Life on the Road, the latest films in a resume that also includes a run on EastEnders and a couple of episodes of Drunk History UK. It was a pleasure to be able to grab an hour with him on my London trip earlier this year, and I'm delighted to finally be able to share that conversation. Because Tom picked Predator. Just a couple of weeks ahead of its 30th anniversary, John McTiernan's 1987 alien action thriller still feels as sharp and inventive as it did the first time round. A high-concept thriller about an elite paramilitary squad being stalked by a resourceful adversary, it could easily have settled for simplicity, and it didn't. Instead, everything about it is a little smarter and a lot more sophisticated than it needed to be, turning a simple adventure story into a masterclass in cat-and-mouse tension, and somehow turning the young, indestructible Arnold Schwarzenegger into an underdog. It's a bit of a mixed metaphor now that I think about it, but that's Predator. Oh, also, our recording situation meant that occasionally Tom's voice has a bit of an echo, so just imagine he's doing the episode, I don't know, hanging upside down from a tree somewhere in Latin America. This is Someone Else's Movie.
It's a genre film.
It is, but it's the sort of film, and I was talking about this with somebody last week, it is deceptively clever and intelligent.
I think so.
Yeah.
I know lots of people would just sneer, and maybe rightly so, but for what it does what it says on the tin, and it does it better than many other films that try to be cleverer than they are. This is what it is, and I think it does it very well.
So what was your first experience? Did you see it theatrically?
I didn't see it theatrically. I would have been 7 when it came out.
Okay. So
there was no... I think I saw it somewhere between the ages of 9 and 13, I would think.
So video.
Some VHS somewhere between primary school and secondary school. And it blew my mind.
It would do.
Yeah. My parents wouldn't have allowed me to watch it because it's a hard 18, but someone was running around school with VHSs.
Sure. Well, this is the way that everyone learns, right? I mean, when you're a kid, you just find out things that you're not supposed to see, and all you want to do is watch.
Yeah, Batman was the other. I think Batman was the first sort of pirated film I ever saw on VHS, okay. And I disapprove of pirating massively. Sure. But at 9, you don't really know.
No, your moral sense is
and someone's got a copy of Batman.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, a kid had a VHS tape of Return of the Jedi that fall. And all I knew was it didn't look great, but it was letterboxed. It was the first time I'd seen a film in widescreen on television.
Yeah, wow.
And that didn't happen again for
a while.
Years.
Yeah.
It wasn't available on Laserdisc, maybe.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to see Predator in a theater with a bunch of people who were wildly underestimating it.
Good.
And
perfect.
It was really something. I mean, McTiernan, as a filmmaker, he had that run, right?
Well, he's responsible for
Predator, Die Hard, and Red October back to back.
I mean, Die Hard is arguably the greatest action film ever made.
I think so, yeah.
And lots of that is shown in, lots of that is well on show in Predator.
Yeah.
And simplicity and sort of efficiency of introductions.
Yeah, it's the directorial signature is simply get out of my way.
Yeah, it's quite linear, it's quite straightforward, it's quite binary. And neither film attempts to be cleverer. Neither film attempts to be clever, it just attempts to move forward as quickly and effectively as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I had forgotten until I rewatched it about a year ago just how long it takes to get to the point where everyone is on the same page, to let for the characters to figure out what's going on. We're ahead of them because we see the ship and we
No, it's very strange. It shows you the ship is the first scene, and then you've got a very effective opening 5 minutes of them getting off the chopper, and we meet Dutch and Carl Weathers, and they arm wrestle, and that's done very efficient. You know who these, and then the opening sortie into the jungle with Little Richard playing is about 2 minutes long, and they're all bathed in the red light. But it's 2 minutes, and you meet every member of the crew.
Yeah.
And it struck me as how effective an intro it has. But yeah, and then there's a huge gap before everyone twigs that this is now survival.
Yeah, I mean, half of them are basically dead before that because they're being picked off one by one. And you have the future governor of California and the future governor of Minnesota running around together. It's one of those things where at the time I think it was, I mean, Aliens had been the year before.
Yeah.
Fox had had a fantastic summer in '86 and just put stuff into production.
Yeah.
And it was still kind of dismissed. Schwarzenegger had made Terminator, but no one was taking him that seriously.
Yeah.
And when it arrived, it was just like, oh, this is just an exploitation. It's an action movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And with every minute that ticks by, it gets smarter and better.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing the audience kind of start whispering, this is very good. Like just suddenly,
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, people figured it out, and I think it's part of that is McTiernan just being absolutely unwilling to concede anything. Like
there's certainly it feels like a film where there's very little compromise.
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to get done, and he achieved it.
Yeah, and so much of it is done without dialogue, or there is dialogue, but
there is dialogue, and it's a ridiculously quotable film, which boys like.
Sure.
In the playground, you love quoting a film.
The first one I always think of is "I Ain't Got Time to Bleed," which is such a dumb line, but does say everything about that character.
Yeah. Jesse, the Body Ventura, has what I always refer to him with his full. I don't refer to him as Governor.
No,
Jesse
it's actually
the Body Ventura.
Governor of the Body Ventura.
But it is Jesse the Body Ventura because I was a big wrestling fan, and he's got some incredible one-liners.
Yeah.
Before he's killed.
Sure.
And relatively early on.
Really horrible way too. I mean, the violence is, as you said, it's a hard R. They don't back down.
They don't disguise any of it.
Yeah, and even though there is a woman in the film, there's no need for sexism. That was really interesting too. There's all the R is violence.
Yes.
I think in Ontario, when I saw it, it was rated adult accompaniment, which is 14 and under.
Yeah.
It's apparent, but it was not perceived as all that violent. And then we went and saw it. It's like, oh no, there's like intestines and things. It's incredible. It's skinned bodies and things.
Yeah, Carl Weathers has got one arm for a whole slow-mo sequence.
Which again, the irony of that bicep shot early on suddenly becomes really horrible and funny. That's the layering that is so subtle that you almost don't notice it.
You don't. I think that's what makes it endlessly. It's certainly for me. It's what makes it endlessly watchable.
Yeah. How often have you seen it? Would you say? Ballpark, just.
Oh, easily 10. Mm-hmm. It's one of the films that if I'm channel surfing at 11:30 and it's just started, it is one of the films where I'll go, oh, okay, I won't be going to bed before 2 now. Yeah. Because I have to watch it. And The Matrix is another one, and Aliens is another one. And there's a few that even at 11, 12 o'clock at night, you go, no, it's on. Yeah. It's a form of comfort food, I think. I think, yes, it is. For me, I think it's Back to the Future, which is definitely the film I've seen the most times, but is the film where I have watched it on television with the Laserdisc right next to the TV. Yes. Oh, just yeah. Above and next to my TV is an array of, well, now Blu-rays. Mm-hmm. I had a 400, 500 strong VHS collection. Right. It's closed down, and now with streaming, you tend not to buy as many. But my top 30 films are all on Blu-ray, and they just sit next to the television, and I'll constantly watch them. Yeah. Sat next to the Blu-ray edition. That's important. It's good that they're there. They are there. Because someday the streaming will stop, something will fail. And we won't have hard copies of anything. Yeah, well, that's why I have shelves and shelves and refuse to part with them. They're just, I still have tapes and discs of things that were never reissued on other formats. And no, I've got about half a ton of VHS in one of my mum and dad's spare rooms. Which I know unless I do something with them, one day they will end up as landfill. So I have to catch them before they get dumped. Yeah. It's important. I mean, I think there will be somewhere down the line storage lockers filled with these things. There'll be archaeological discoveries. Yeah.
For people, this was their culture.
Yes, well, it's like Storage Hunters, isn't it? Where the bin goes into receivership, and then they have auctions where they open it, and someday it will be 500 VHSs.
Yeah, it'll be the things that aren't available anymore.
And it will either be worth £7.50 or 7,500. You know, there's no way of knowing.
I like the idea of people, some far-off archaeological future, looking back in the cinema of the 80s, all the amped-up power stuff, and thinking, well, these people really enjoyed working out and watching people die horribly.
Yeah, horrendously.
But if you're making a movie in that world, Predator it's right up there. I think it is. It's definitive in its way.
Yeah, I think so. It certainly for me, it still stands up. Every aspect of it has stood the test of time relatively well. It's slightly macho, obviously, but you know, I watched it as an 11-year-old, so it's a boy's fantasy. It's boys in the playground. One of you pretends to be the predator, and the other one pretends to be Dutch.
Yeah,
and you fight.
Yeah,
until one of you grazes your knee.
Exactly.
And has to go inside. Which
is, when you're 11, that is the nuclear detonation.
That is it.
That's it. It's over.
You're either that's the either that or the A-Team.
Yeah. No, that's right. The A-Team was huge here, wasn't it? Huge. Maybe even bigger, more so than it was in North America.
Maybe, possibly. It was massive over here. It was all we watched. The A-Team and Knight Rider. Oh, yeah, they were the ones when they're Airwolf.
So it is really. I mean, I'm a little bit older, and my formative stuff would probably have been Star Trek and Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
That were in heavy syndication when I was a kid.
Yes.
And the A-Team, and I think I can remember the music more than I remember any of the episodes. They're just really memorable things.
They're quite interchangeable, aren't they, really?
Kind of, yeah. But Predator does feel like the culmination of all of it. Because they're going into... I mean, I would like to believe that it is an examination of machismo as well as a celebration.
I would hope so. It's too good to not be clever enough to know that.
Yeah.
From the get-go, where Schwarzenegger screams, "Dylan, you son of a bitch," and it's a static shot of two mans heaving biceps. We all understand that's funny.
Yeah.
It's incredibly funny and ridiculous. What's the matter? CIA got you pushing too many pencils. It's so quotable and it's so ridiculous and it's so macho and alpha and bullshit. Yes. But I can't help but enjoy that moment.
Oh, it is. It's deeply pleasurable.
It's incredible.
Because because it holds a little bit longer, because you get the sense of the strain on Carl Weathers' face. They are actually performing it.
And as an actor, as Schwarzenegger, it was never mentioned that Schwarzenegger would not win this arm wrestling. A, he's Schwarzenegger. B, he's Dutch. Yeah. Carl Weathers has to go, I'm going to have to... I know I have to lose it because it's written... Yeah, you can see it's all going on.
Apollo Creed did win the first fight. I mean, that's...
I know, right?
Yeah. And that's the question that I find myself wondering. How many of them were in on the joke? Does Carl Weathers knows? No question. Schwarzenegger probably...
I think you can see in Weathers' face he knows.
Yeah. He's doing that Lando Calrissian swagger thing.
Yes.
He knows he's the best guy in the movie, but it's not his movie.
It's not his movie.
And then you've got Ventura, and you've got his sort of attendant hangers-on, the people who follow his side, like the guys who just stand around and look serious for the whole film.
Yeah.
Billy and everybody.
Yeah,
just being there.
Billy and Mac.
And I don't know that they know, but I don't know that it matters.
Poncho.
Right? Yeah. And Shane Black.
Shane Black. But Shane Black's in that film.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
What's he doing in there? He's just doing terrible sex jokes.
Yeah. And
until he dies. Until he's the first man of our team to die. He just does terrible sex jokes about the size of his girlfriend's pussy.
Oh, that's right.
It's ridiculous. Forgot about that.
And again, commentary. I'm sure you give him that role because he can...
And we know how clever Shane Black is. We know how on the pulse and how knowing his winks are. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you can just dismiss it as machismo bullshit. There's a knowing wink in there, which you notice when you don't notice when you watch it as an 11-year-old, but you do when you watch it as a 37-year-old.
Yeah, I think so.
This is funny. They know they must know it's funny, and they must know it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then you have the music, which is trying a little too hard, but is still great.
It's incredible.
It's that orchestration of the Blu-ray. When I finally set up the home theater, it's punching the walls of the subwoofer.
Oh, Alan Silvestri. It's remarkable. If you watch as a back-to-back, watch Back to the Future and Predator. It's almost the same soundtrack.
Very close.
They're so similar. They're ridiculously similar.
Yeah.
But it has all his hallmarks, but it's done so beautifully. And I remember even as a boy recognising the sound design on it, the sounds of the jungle and the sounds of the predator and the noises and the tribal drums and the clever use of sound.
Mm. Well, the character doesn't speak, so you have to find a way to environmentalize him.
It is your in to him, and it's him studying these 8 men. And sampling their voice, sampling their sounds.
Yeah,
they're all neat. They're all very efficient, effective tools and tricks that McTiernan has used.
Yeah,
there's sort of, it feels like there's very little wasted energy.
Well, it's the sophistication again. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's telling you much as Die Hard did that it's Die Hard uses there's a moment, there's a musical sting for an anamorphic strobe image when the I'm going to screw this up because I'm now starting to confuse Predator and Die Hard in a very, very strange way. When McClane is chasing the Predator in the sequence just before Willis finds the C4, he walks under a lamp. The lamp blossoms, and the music goes boing, and that moment just told me everything's going to be fine. We've got the ending. We're going to be okay.
Yes.
You can enjoy yourself.
Oh, and you know you're in a safe pair of hands.
Yeah. And before that with Predator, where I didn't really... I mean, I had seen Nomads, but it's so shaggy and odd and artful that it didn't feel like... It felt like the first 10 minutes of Predator was like, oh, this guy's just taking a studio check. He's cashing in off his art house hit. And then you realize, no, he's infiltrated it.
He's taken it. He's taken it with both hands.
Yeah.
And he does something quite remarkable with what is essentially an alien going on a safari.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's your basic B-movie premise.
It's so B-movie. It beggars belief how B-movie and linear and simplistic it is. But that's part of what gives you the thrill and the rush. Because actually, a brilliantly done B-movie is incredibly entertaining, because you can turn off a little bit. You can let it wash over you. You can just enjoy the ride, this visceral, bombastic thrill ride.
Oh yeah, it's good candy.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. And then of course you get the other thing that you realize later, which certainly didn't occur to me until much, much later, years later, that it's a critique of Reagan-era politics in Latin America.
Well, yes, I mean...
slides right by.
Yeah, again, as an 11-year-old child.
Yeah.
Not the first thing I thought of. But yeah, it's saying things, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that it never comes up, but they're a death squad. These guys are going in to kill people in another country that they shouldn't be killing. No. And it doesn't matter because they get killed right back by something else that's already taken care of their problem. You just wonder how... I mean, it was 1986 when they put this thing in production.
Yeah.
Reagan had been reelected. Iran-Contra hadn't broken yet. This was all just in the air. And
it was clearly in the ether, and they took hold of it.
But without mashing their thumbs down on the scale.
There's no tub thumping.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a PhD thesis out there somewhere.
Well, although Schwarzenegger Dutch does say they're a rescue squad, not assassins. Mm-hmm. So he wants that point made.
Right, but they do.
They can't kill every last motherfucker in the words of Samuel L. Jackson, and that's another bit. Is it's called Predator. You've seen a spaceship, but actually, the first sequence of storming that jungle stronghold is a remarkable piece of balls out action.
Yeah, it's straight up war movie. I mean, it really is.
I mean, it's the very definition of explosions and two stuntmen backflipping off a gun turret on fire.
Which is what you want.
That happens 7 or 8 times, and I'm certain I've seen the same shot used twice. But it's all that they almost appear to be live stock footage now because we've seen it so many times. But we hadn't at that point. We hadn't seen it that many times and done that brilliantly.
Yeah.
With stuntmen back flipping 20 foot on fire.
Yeah.
It's unrelenting.
And it's necessary to set up their competence before.
Exactly. I thought that last time I watched it. You need that efficiency of that squad, which it goes back to this the 2-minute sequence in the helicopters to Little Richard. It so efficiently sets up who they are as individual men and as a squad, and then that opening the opening assault says these men have done this before very, very effectively, and so the Predator's going to have trouble with these guys. Not so much, just the one of them, and it happens to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, which it would be.
Which you
know it would be. As a 9 to 11-year-old, Schwarzenegger was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen on a film. Is the most ridiculous human being I'd ever seen, not on a television.
Right. Yeah.
Like some superhero made flesh, just this ridiculous, and it's him at his peak. It's between Terminators, which is that's the golden era of Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. When he slimmed down for Terminator 2, you can sort of see the start of it. Where he'd spent years, he's a little stiffer, and then he went on for another 10 years making them. I'm fascinated by his presence because I think Predator is the only one where you really get a sense of how little he is. Yeah, he's not a tall man.
Yes, no, and again, the most incredible thing. There's a shot at the end where it is Kevin Peter Hall, isn't it?
Yes, in the costume, and you get the sense of stature.
Picks him up by his throat, and he's a good 2 foot off the ground. Yeah, we know we've cheated the shot somewhat, but it's hard to fake that one shot. A huge thing.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Peter Hall was 6'7", I think, or 6'8".
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger, I'm guessing, is 5'6" at most.
He can't be.
He's not tall. I mean, I'm 5'9".
Stallone, I would think, is maybe 5 something.
He's wee.
Schwarzenegger can't be under 6 foot.
I think he is.
No.
I think
I don't believe it.
I don't know. Well, the thing about bodybuilders, right, is a lot of them are fairly short.
Well, they are wide. They are wide creatures, aren't they?
Well, that's how they compensate. Guy Pearce is only 4'3".
I enjoy seeing other actors in real life. As an actor, I occasionally get to see and meet other actors who I know, and I find it quite interesting, sort of measuring myself against them, knowing that I am an entirely average human being. I'm 5'10", I'm a 38 regular suit, size 9 shoes. I mean, I'm a shop mannequin,
right?
And so I'm quite a decent gauge to work out which actors are taller than you think, and which actors are shorter than you think.
Okay, I have to ask what the most striking one was, either tall or short. Who surprised you?
Hanks.
I was going to say Hanks too.
Must be 6'3", 2 at least.
Yeah, I met him 94 for Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
and was really shocked at how tall he was.
I mean, in full disclosure, I didn't meet him.
You were just standing.
This was I think it was an HBO after party. I amazingly got invited to, and I saw Tom Hanks, and he was stood next to a table, leaning on the table, and so I went to the table next to his table and leaned on that table, as if I was in a picture in my own head. No one took the picture, and I was like, you're very, very tall for someone who is known to be the new Jimmy Stewart everyman. Hanks is the everyman of our generation.
He's supposed to be ordinary.
And he's a good 3 inches taller than every man.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. That was a surprise.
It was really jarring. I was surprised. It's Alexander Skarsgård, also very, very tall. I was in an elevator with him. Oh yeah.
Big.
big. Yes.
Mind you, I guess he was getting ready for... He probably was getting ready for Batman.
I interviewed him when Argo came to TIFF. That's the other thing. In Toronto, once a year, I will be in a hallway with literally everyone.
With all of them,
and
yeah.
you can just sort of gauge here and there.
Yeah, no, I quite enjoy that game.
Gail.
As a benchmark average bloke,
yeah,
it's nice to see.
Yeah,
but yes, lots of actors are a few inches below me.
Yeah. Gael Garcia Bernal is the one I keep telling you, because really short, surprisingly short. Not that you would expect. He's got a very oval forehead, so you expect him to be taller,
bigger,
and he's not. I'm sorry, I'm just gossiping now.
No, I don't want to appear just to be gossiping about short actors, but there are a lot of short actors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the lollipop person phenomenon. Your head is big and catches the light right, and the rest.
Yeah, lots of really successful actors have huge heads.
Mm-hmm. It draws you in. Big eyes.
Clever. I don't. I have an entirely average head, which is probably why I'm not more successful.
Oh well.
Because I just quite a normal sized head and body.
Play someone with a normal head.
Yeah.
Normal head syndrome.
Yeah, I pretend.
Those movies win Oscars. But you... Sorry, now, how the hell do we get back to credit?
How do we pull this back
this is
from the brink?
Well,
we were on size, weren't we? We got Schwarzeneggered out with size. The Oak took us by surprise.
Yes. And what I was going to say, though, is that... the original conception for you know about this, right? The original conception of the Predator costume and the actor playing him changed radically. Because originally it was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
Walking backwards on stilts.
Yes. Which would have... I mean, again, you'd like to see... You would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah. That
would have been... Because, again, it's debatable how tall... Schwarzenegger is, but...
I met Van Damme. He's not tall.
He's not tall. No. He is not at all. When I heard that, you go, well, no, Kevin Peter Hall is a man who's nearly 7 foot tall. Jean-Claude Van Damme is not. Yes, he can get his leg 7 foot in the air.
Sure.
But yeah, that was a weird concept.
And he was supposed to be more insectoid. They wanted something that looked less human.
Yes.
But I think... and they rightly decided that for whatever reason that it wasn't working, shut down, redid it with the new costume and the new design.
I think it was for the best.
Yeah, and with the thing that fascinates me about that decision is that with Schwarzenegger you need another humanoid.
Yes.
He can't fight anyone.
It is the mano a mano at the end where it works.
Yeah.
And actually the bit that works very, very effectively is when the Predator beats... 7 shades of excrement out of Schwarzenegger, a man who has rarely been bettered,
and has been demonstrated already.
But he has to physically dominate Schwarzenegger. I don't know how Jean-Claude Van Damme on a set of stilts would have managed backwards.
It doesn't. Really. Yeah, it sounds like an idea that you come up with in pre-production and someone else says, "Oh, that's awesome.
That's a good idea."
And they run with it just as far as they can,
and then someone trips over.
Yeah.
And that's good.
The stilt breaks.
Yeah. And good.
Yeah, because what they did come up with, as odd as that makeup design ultimately is, it's a crab-headed...
It's an incredible... And also, I think I can... The first time, I watched it, the first time the mask came off... You hadn't seen that much of the Predator, so you just assumed that was its... as a 9 to 11-year-old.
Oh, the 18-year-old said in my theatre.
Just assumed that was the alien's face, and then this depressurized, and he just roars, and it's a strange crab vagina face.
Yeah, which becomes a runner in both movies, which is really weird. But it also speaks to the 80s, right?
Yeah,
that's totally of its time.
It's an incredible design. It's Stan Winston.
Yeah. But when the helmet came off, exactly that. When that first hose came off, people in the theater started buzzing about it.
Yeah. What if he doesn't look like that? What the hell is he going to look like?
Yeah. And it's really disturbing.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's more like a person in a suit and less at the same time.
Yeah.
Because of the facial jaw thing.
Because it's very humanoid. He has slightly pointy fingers and toes, but it's a human man's shape.
He has a musculature.
He has a muscular man's shape and stands like a human being, and then just this appalling
mandible
maul of a face.
Yeah.
It's great. It's an incredible design.
It really is. I mean, the first photos that came out looked like a nightmare.
Yeah.
I remember there was a cover of a horror magazine called Fangoria that plastered.
Fangoria, yeah.
The real face was on the cover.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was 86, so I was still in high school. And you'd go to the store and see what was there, the magazine store. And it came in and it was just like, what the? That's horrible.
What is this? Yeah.
And then to see it moving, because it's a beautiful articulation.
And moving very, very well.
Yeah.
Again, it's another part of the film that I think holds up really, really well after how many?
30
years now, yeah.
But it's pre-CGI and it's the
everything's physical, everything's
practical effects,
and it's beautiful. And Stan Winston is the man.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. It's a remarkable piece because that's the escalation of the film too. You start with an action movie, you move into a horror film, and then the payoff is there's something else.
Yeah.
It's something you haven't seen before.
It is. I do. I think it did do things you hadn't seen before. Or it did lots of things you hadn't seen before together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It wasn't the first time you'd seen any of these things, but actually it was one of the first times you'd seen them all together and done so well, done so not effortlessly.
Well, proficiently.
Seemed to be.
Execute beautifully.
Yeah, executed perfectly.
Yeah. And Die Hard is the same, I think.
Yeah, it's a very effective, efficient, straightforward, linear, and it does everything right. There is no point where you go, well, this is a bit jarring or doesn't quite gel.
Yeah, no, they're glorious celebrations of the concept of the very basic idea, in just the same way that Die Hard uses Christmas music as a soundtrack and ironically comments on itself and also has a villain who, honestly, and I've said this a number of times, I'm sure, in discussing Die Hard, if Alan Rickman had shot Bruce Willis in the face in the last 10 minutes, we'd be fine with it. They both earn their victory.
Everyone earns their place at the table, don't they?
Yeah, and Predator's the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you are led to believe that it is possible that this guy's...
Yes, and again, if Predator had come out of the victor, you'd have gone, whoa, what? But you'd have got over it and gone, that was a brilliant film.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the twist. When Schwarzenegger gets his head caved in, but you would have gone with it.
Yeah, I would have been fine with it. I mean, certainly the concept is strong enough to sustain, as we've seen, to sustain endless reiterations.
Well,
have you
Shane Black's?
He's doing it now.
Which is the new one.
Just bizarre.
I'm very excited about.
Have you seen the photograph that was just released? The cast shot.
I saw the cast shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keegan-Michael Key is in it.
Yes.
Yes. Wait.
But then Jesse the Body Ventura was in the original, and so was Shane Black. So it's sort of. I'm very excited because I think Shane Black. Yeah, on his day is something quite remarkable.
As a filmmaker, as a director, he has yet to let me down.
Yes.
Have you caught up to The Nice Guys yet?
Nice Guys is one of the best films I've seen in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It does that again. It doesn't put a step wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect, and it does it. I like films that try to be everything. I know some people hate films that try to be all things for all people, but I have a real respect for films that try and be funny, thrilling, horrific. They do try and shoehorn as many different sorts of films into one film, and I think Nice Guys is one of those. It sort of does everything perfectly.
Yeah, I just loved it. I loved it even more the second time.
I saw it once, and it sort of felt like a really comfortable throwback to another age, and yet it did. For me, it didn't really put a foot wrong. Yeah. I loved it.
Watching it the second time is liberating because you know that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That it won't.
Yes, and you're not quite sure you're never sure what's going to happen because he, spoiler alert, he kills the person we're meant to be protecting and
pretty quickly,
saving.
In fact, that ends up.
And then the movie carries on. And again, you're fine with that.
Yeah.
Because he's earned it. So, in summary, I'm very excited to see Shane Black's Predators.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there. I think there are things. It's strange. I really like Predator 2.
There's elements of Predator 2 I really like, and it was a really neat twist to go urban jungle.
Right.
It's nice.
Even though now it is spectacularly racist.
Oh, incredibly racist.
And conceived.
Yeah, the Rasta witch doctor. It's appalling.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating because I remember the big deal when Morton Downey Jr. shows up. He was an American commentator, pops up for 2 seconds at the beginning. He's one of the newscasters.
Right.
And I realized in the last 20 years, he's like that. Predator 2 is, I think, what a lot of Fox News viewers think America is. Like the big cities are actually that bad. Yes. And it envisioned this horrible world of 1997 where everybody's out there shooting each other.
It's sort of in a similar way. Yeah, it's that kind of extreme, like Verhoeven's. It's like RoboCop's.
Yeah. The level of satire.
The level of satire on RoboCop's commentary on the news is now no longer funny.
Yeah.
Post-truth.
Yes. Someone pointed out that
it's not funny anymore. That's just real news now.
Yeah.
Is Verhoeven's ridiculous parody of what news was, or is his ridiculous parody of what news would become? Mm-hmm. And he was right.
Yeah.
It became that.
Well, all of America can apparently be summed up through RoboCop, not Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and Showgirls.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Pretty good. Yeah, that's 3 quite something films as well, isn't it?
A friend of mine, Adam Naiman, literally wrote the book on Showgirls as a critical reassessment of it, and said that look at everything else Paul Verhoeven has ever done. What makes you think he didn't know what he was doing here? And it's hard to argue.
Yes, he was clever enough. Yeah, maybe. Certainly, Starship Troopers and RoboCop are very telling.
Yeah.
They're another 2 actually they're another 2 of my list of would watch if we're on at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, those things should just be on every airplane entertainment system just to keep people going.
Yeah,
and to maybe inoculate them against.
And they're endlessly entertaining, both those films as well.
Mm-hmm.
And B movies, genre films.
Yeah,
but much cleverer than they're sometimes given credit by more intelligent men than me.
Yeah, well, I mean, Total Recall as well was to get back to the use of Schwarzenegger as a deceptive, subversive figure.
Yes,
like he's playing an ordinary person
as a vessel. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Schwarzenegger ever being used as a normal human being is weird. But yeah, in Total Recall, he's a manual labourer, isn't he? Really,
they give him a jackhammer, which is supposed to explain the physique, which I think is amazing. It's like a shake weight sort of workout system for him. But again, that's the appeal of a Schwarzenegger movie, is you want to see this man not be normal.
Yeah.
And in Predator, they introduce him as a warrior and make him normal and make him, subpar,
beatable.
villain.
The first shot you see of him sat in the back of the helicopter with the huge cigar, and you just follow the back of his head, and eventually he turns, and you're like, it's a money shot. It's full of money shots.
Yeah. And now the Dardenne brothers use that shot, which I think is just magnificent. Predator has accidentally influenced European art cinema.
Yeah.
For generations. So did you... I assume you've seen the Alien Predator pairings.
I have. I've seen both. I saw both Alien versus Predators,
which are not disappointed.
They're not good. They're not good. And I've seen the most recent.
Predators.
Predators.
Robert Rodriguez film. No.
Yeah.
He produced it, but it was.
But it's Brody, isn't it? I didn't enjoy any of those films.
There are moments of inspiration in Predators where, if you had to make a sequel, this is an interesting way.
This is a good way to do it. Yeah. Yes, bring the game to your quarry. Bring the wild animals you wish to hunt to you.
Mm-hmm. And it still ingeniously keeps us from ever understanding them. I think that's the most interesting thing.
It just popped in, weirdly niche film popped into my head. Hard Target.
Oh yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Sure. John Woo.
John Woo. I mean, I could have chosen any John Woo film. Actually, I should have chosen any John Woo film. I'm a huge John Woo fan. But Hard Target, where they essentially rich Louisianans employ vagrants and hunt vagrants. That's essentially Predators, isn't it?
It really is.
With the Predators as these rich white bayou dwellers.
Yeah.
Employing ex-vet vagrants to hunt with crossbows. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's another one too. Right around that same time as Hard Target, there was Surviving the Game with Ice-T as the quarry.
Yes.
And
that's very similar, isn't it?
They're mirror images of each other, really.
Yeah. There was I remember there being a couple that were a bit similar. But yeah, again, I'm a huge John Woo and JCVD fan.
That's okay. He's done some good work.
He's done some great work. He's done some terrible work.
Just not lately, yeah.
But he's done some great work.
Yeah.
Again, he had his the golden age where from my point of view, and obviously I was a teenager, he could not put a foot wrong.
Right. Knockoff, though. I think that was...
Knockoff. Actually, Knockoff was the film where I went, in the words of Danny Glover, maybe I am too old for this shit.
Yeah. I think that's the problem, too, when actors refuse to stop, when they have that imaginary audience that they're going for every time.
Seagal.
Yeah, well...
Still rolling out Eastern European DTVs.
They'll pay him.
I know. And it just feels like even in his prime, he didn't do a lot.
No,
because it was all very tight and close to all in his body space, and it was all very quick movements and flips and disarming men. And
it was the one. What was it? The one after Under Siege.
Under Siege 2.
No, before that. Sadly, there was one where it's just very obvious that he is waiting for actors to
attack him.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's got worse. It's only got worse.
Yeah. Oh, it was the Glimmerman where he has the coat that's supposed to hide his bulk and
right. Yes.
Not for a moment.
What was on the other day? Nico.
Oh, the first one, Above the Law.
I'd forgotten how skinny Steven Seagal used to be.
First few movies, he was pretty lean.
Really skinny.
Yeah.
And not anymore.
And then he got successful.
Yeah.
And he started eating better.
I
suppose.
And he started to employ stuntmen to attack him.
Yes.
In order. And in turn, it's the classic 1 man against 20. It's fine as long as you attack me one at a time.
It's honor. It's an honor.
And I am down a corridor where no one can attack me from the sides or behind. And then I'll just do this.
Again, Predator, he's got a laser sight. He'll pick you off. People in a group, doesn't really matter. It's a much more...
Yes, well, let's go back to Predator. Well, sorry, we went niche.
It's all of the period.
But it is all of the period. And I'm showing my age, but that is my... They're those action films that I grew up with and I had a visceral connection to.
Sure.
And so they are the films that stay with you.
Yeah. There is absolutely no shame in loving what you love. A dear friend of mine, John Harkness, the film critic for Now Magazine, which I am now doing because he died in 2007, always said, there is no such thing as a guilty pleasure. If you love it,
if you love it, you should own it.
Yeah.
And if it shows nothing else, I don't really care what people think about my film choices. But these are films I enjoy. These are,
But you are responding to the most sophisticated.
They might be different films to the films maybe Whit Stillman and you discussed.
Whit picked RKO, and he picked Wagon Master.
Okay.
And the Gay Divorcee. So, Gay Divorcee, yes, that's elevated.
These are different. Yeah.
Wagon Master is a RKO B movie completely. It's just an old Western.
They're fun. You want to, you choose films that affected you and that you have a connection to, and these are the films you watch the most.
Right. Well, which brings us to the key question, the closer of the show, which is always the same, which is, what of, if anything, of Predator have you borrowed or stolen or absorbed into your own DNA?
Yeah, well, me borrowing anything from Predator into my own performances would be an overstatement. Me and Schwarzenegger share very little on screen. Me and Schwarzenegger share very little on screen. we are not men that play the same sorts of roles, and that's probably partly why I enjoy the films I enjoy too. Because there's part of me that goes, I'm never going to get to do that. As much as I'd love to, there may become. I'd probably have to write it myself for me to be in an action.
Yeah, just put it out there.
In an action film, but I'd love to in a comedy. Again, Shane Black's quite a decent example of someone who does comedic action very well. That's something I'd love to play with, all those staple action cliches and just subvert them slightly.
those are the best ones.
I think so. You know, he jumps from one block to the next and sprains his ankle.
Yeah.
And sits behind a box going, God, that really, that hurt. And he's just sprained his ankle. But you never see men spraining their ankles in Predator.
Yeah. They're too, well,
you should.
They ain't got time.
They ain't got time to bleed.
Or sprain. Or...
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah. That is an amazing piece of logic, but
it's right.
Spoken by someone who is currently bleeding.
Kind of correct.
Yeah.
And the thing we're talking about is bleeding neon goo.
Yeah, it's true. They don't really have any basis for believing that that's blood.
Yeah.
It could just be spit.
And the bit where he unlocks his medikit and fixes it.
Himself up. And again, the beauty of the efficiency of that storytelling where we know it's a bomb on his arm when it starts counting down simply because the symbols we've never seen before start to disappear.
And beep, make a noise and go.
Yeah.
And go away.
It's incredibly well done.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, someone thought this through. Someone thought about everything.
Yeah.
And I honor that now by watching it as many times as I can. Very
loudly. Yeah. I think it's lovely. Schwarzenegger, when it's him on his own, setting up these elaborate
that's right.
Boy Scout booby traps.
Yeah. The pulleys and things.
And he's down that channel at the end, and he's rigged that weight to whip that
the log
across with the spikes on, and the Predator ducks down into the channel, finds the spikes. Do it! Kill me! and the Predator doesn't get suckered in. Yeah. It's great. It's lovely stuff.
That's that moment where, if the Predator just pulls his head off, that's okay. He's earned it.
He earned that. He was cleverer than we thought as well.
Yeah.
A very efficient killing machine. He had the weaponry. Again, when he takes his shoulder-mounted cannon off and the helmet comes off and he gets rid of all the weapons and just goes to town. Two creatures just punching each other. It's beautifully nonsensical, but it gets me every time. I love it. I'm such a schoolboy.
My thanks to Tom Bennett, who you should absolutely seek out in Love and Friendship, or Mascots, or David Brent, Life on the Road. You know what? Everywhere he appears, because he's kind of terrific. Thanks also to Whit Stillman. He knows what he did. And a special thanks to Paul Atherley for the use of his flat. You can find Tom on Twitter at Newman Stings, all one word, and I forgot to ask him what it means. And you can find Predator on Blu-ray and DVD from 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play. Oh, and it's counterintuitive, but the first Blu-ray edition, the one with no extras, is the one with the best transfer. Just, bear that in mind. Also, fun fact, Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator, was 7'2", and Arnold Schwarzenegger is officially 6'2". I don't buy it. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you want to leave a review on iTunes, that would be very kind of you. What are you waiting for? I'm right here. Thanks for listening.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.